We exist. Hello, everyone can unmute themselves. Good morning.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Right.
How is everyone doing? This is not Adventurers League.
Nope. This is something entirely apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, today
Brave new territory.
I'm excited.
we're doing like a two shot of Dogs in the Vineyard.
Doing a something shot.
Because Adam is busy having his Until Dawn LARP event.
Yeah, right? He's out in the snowy woods, probably communing with demons and shit. I don't know.
Being chased by Wendigos.
He was talking about Sumerian meeting
It was
people
lit.
in basements. It was
Well,
weird.
anyways, that guy is garbage. He's not here. So
Oh! Harsh.
So we're not running Adventurers League. What are we running, Andrew?
running this game, Dogs in the Vineyard by D. Vincent Baker, famously the maker of Apocalypse World and various other games like Kill Puppies for Satan.
That's a thing? That's a real thing?
That is a real thing that you made.
Uh-huh.
And so Dogs in the Vineyard is about paladin cowboys in a West that never was. It's about a pre-statehood Utah, wherein there is this this like fantasy Mormon kind of community, and the players take on the roles of God's watchdogs who are sent to deliver the mail and,
Other things.
administer, religious whatever, and, keep the community together, and also like hunt demons and root out sin and depravity and all that kind of stuff. The characters are universally young people with very little experience or wisdom, but absolute moral authority.
That's going to be great.
Absolute moral authority. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's about exploring that dynamic. It's a really great game. It's one of my favorites. It's got a lot of interesting little details in it. And I'm just going to read some stuff from the book to inspire us, and then we can hop into character creation.
Ooh.
Dogs in the Vineyard is about God's watchdogs, young men and women called to preserve the faithful in a hostile frontier territory. They travel from town to isolated town, carrying mail, news, and doctrine, healing the sick, supporting the weary, and pronouncing judgment upon the wicked. A town welcomes you with celebration and honor, but what you're there to do is stir up its dirt and lay bare its sins. So yeah, it's a pre-statehood Utah, the Deseret territory, towards the middle of the 19th century. Picture a landscape of high mountains, icy rivers, and cedar woods falling away westward into scrublands, deserts, buttes, and swells. The summer skies are heartbreaking blue, but the winters are long and killing. And then picture some religious pioneers fleeing persecution and violence in the East. They're trying to establish a society based on faith and righteousness out in this frontier. They've made the long trek westward, but they're still in danger. Their towns are small and isolated, vulnerable to attack from without, sin and corruption within. Under pressure, their pride becomes sin, their anger becomes violence, their resentment becomes hate. Winter and the demons howl. You are God's watchdogs, holding the faith together. So that's from the book. That's what the game is like. And it's got kind of an episodic format. So we're going to go like each session or like episode or whatever is going to be one town. And you're going to like do a bunch of stuff in town, and then you're going to move on. You're going to go to the next town because that's your job. You kind of just like get a route and you go around the territories, delivering mail and all that kind of stuff. Kissing babies, whatever.
I'll do the mail delivering and the kissing babies, and Dave can do the shooting people part. I think he's really excited for that.
I'm really excited about that. Me too.
All right. So first things first, we have to figure out who we are, right?
Yeah. And so I'm just going to like give us a little bit more flavor that is relevant.
Can you do it with an accent?
I'm sorry?
Can you do it with an accent?
You want me to do it with an accent?
Yeah.
Well, all right. I struggle to read with an accent, though I am lettered and numbered. I just watched a lot of Deadwood, so it's gonna be that voice.
Perfect.
The whole of the faith is the faith of, or sorry, the whole name of the faith is the faith of all things in the King of Life reborn. The whole name of the dogs is the order set apart to the preservation of the faith and the faithful. Casually, the King's dogs or life's watchdogs. Dogs are always called brother or sister by their first name. Brother Jeremiah, Sister Patience. The faith is the only true religion in the world. All other religions are A, actively demonic, cults created by faithful leaders fallen into sin, B, corrupt and decadent, like the majority religions of the East, or C, idle nonsense, like most of the religions in the wider world. In a typical town, there might be mostly farmers, a blacksmith, barrel maker, whatever, etc. A bunch of stuff in towns. It's all pretty humble and simple. The guns are pre-Civil War revolvers, which means they're before the Colt Navy and the distinctive 6-gun look. They're heavier slug guns with lower profiles and big bores. So basically, they're like somewhere between a musket and a revolver. You still have to like make your own little bullets. Like you'll have the little ball of lead and then you have to pack the little explosive part in like oiled paper, and they're like smoky and loud and prone to misfiring and all this kind of stuff. So it's not the Wild West of most movies. I think the best touchstone for the period is actually something like True Grit. True Grit is very similar, where like the young girl character like fires a gun and it knocks her over because it's fucking huge. It's stuff like that. And there are like First Nations or Indigenous people. They're referred to as the Mountain People. And the faithful view them as this kind of like lost tribe of Israel kind of thing, where they're held in some degree of reverence as being special, but also that they have fallen. So there's like some people are like, oh yeah, no, they're great and we can redeem them and bring them into the fold and they're like special and blessed. Or they're like, oh yeah, no, they're just like totally corrupt and bad and broken people and they're not even human and we can just go murder them, and everything in between. So they exist among the faithful, and then also out, in their pre-contact with the West kind of lifestyle. That's still happening as well. And there's like some peace between them and the communities, but they also butt up against each other and become violent and all that kind of stuff. There's also a secular like US government authority who have their own laws and all that kind of stuff. And that butts up against the dogs because you go around murdering people because God wants you to, and then the government is like, you didn't get to hang for being a murderer, and you're like, no, it was cool, bro.
No. God said I could. It's fine.
And so there are people who are not of the faith kind of smattered throughout a lot of these communities. Like maybe they own a store or they're the local like marshal or whatever, and you all have to interact with those people as well. Okay, well, let's do some character creation.
Well, alrighty then.
So starting characters are all young men and women at the end of their teens or the beginning of their 20s. They've just spent 2 months or more in training, education, and ceremony to prepare them for their duties. They know one another, although they didn't necessarily choose one another as companions. They are 201 unmarried virgins. They're allowed to travel mixed and unchaperoned because of the strength of their devotion and duties. Cool. So there's some talk about how we are going to do character creation here and not beforehand. That's great. So procedure. Everyone open your character sheets.
Did it.
Open.
I'm so ready.
Is to choose your background.
Okay.
So I will read the list of the available backgrounds. There is well-rounded. Choose this if you want your character to be straightforward, balanced, and effective. It's a good choice for men born in the faith. Because the faith is super about gender roles and all that kind of stuff, as well.
Yeah.
On your character sheet, if you choose well-rounded, you get 17 d6s in stat dice, 1d4, 46, 2d8 in trait dice, 46, 2d8 in relationship dice. So everything in the game is rated as a number of dice of a given size. All stats, etc., will be one size of die exclusively. So you can have 46 in something, but you can't have like 2d8, 1d6, 1d4 in something. And then your background assigns you like a set of pools to use to make stuff.
Okay.
A bunch to assign to your stats, and then for traits, you can have multiple dice assigned to them, so like 2d4 trait or a 1d4 trait. So you can have as many traits as you have dice, or less than that if you want. And then relationships, which we'll get to later, you don't have to do them all at once. You can save some relationship dice to assign during play with characters that you find interesting and stuff like that. Strong history is the next background choice. Choose this if you want your character to have a good education, lots of experience, or specialized training. 13d6 in stat dice, 3d6, 48, 3d10 in trait dice, 1d4, 3d6, 2d8 in relationship dice. So well-rounded has the most stat dice because that's the most kind of generally useful. Strong history lets you have really strong traits. So to be a very like specialized character who's good at specific things. And then there's complicated history. Choose this if you want your character to have overcome a troubled, dangerous, or challenging upbringing. It's an especially good choice if you want your character to be a convert to the faith. And I won't bother reading out all the numbers, but basically this one, you have a lot of D4 traits, which are problematic traits, but you still also get some very high D10 traits. So it's about having this like, troubled past that you've come from. Strong community. Choose this if you want your character to be socially adept and from a strong, caring family. It's a good choice for women born in the faith. And it essentially gives you more relationship dice. And then there's complicated community. Choose this if you want your character to be socially vulnerable or from a broken, in crisis, or destructive family. Lots of relationship dice, but lots of D4 relationships. Have people got any thoughts of which of those apply best to their character concepts?
I don't know.
I mean, more.
If nothing's jumping out at you, just taking well-rounded is totally legit. That's like the default choice.
I'm planning on taking well-rounded. I think just so.
I think
that place.
I think I want to go strong. Strong history.
Cool. So you're like a very educated or trained person, someone with a lot of special skills.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I want to do it yet, but that's the one that's speaking to me.
Well, I'm gonna go complicated AF, complicated community, probably.
Just to provide some more context on the significance of this stuff, the way that you can look at it in terms of like the significance of traits versus relationships, relationships help you determine what conflicts are going to be about, and traits help you determine, like, help you be in control of like certain types of conflict, right? Because you're going to have skills that will let you just like win at certain things. Relationship dice are more about guiding conflict towards certain, topics or people or whatever.
Okay.
So, if I wanted to be like a healer type character, like, it would probably be better to have trait dice, or? Yeah,
generally, if you want to be someone with a bunch of skills, then those are going to manifest as traits. Because traits can be things like, I trained out east as like I went to university to be a doctor, could be a trait.
Okay.
Like a 1d10 trait, so you get to roll this huge die when you're doing medical stuff. And then the complicated ones will have lots of D4s, and D4s are generally like negative things, be they traits or relationships, or problematic ones at the very least. Negative isn't quite the right word. Because in the game, we're going to like roll a whole bunch of dice, and if you're rolling D4s, they are less likely to have good numbers on them, which means you're and you need to use more of them to match other people's dice, which is bad. Anytime you're using lots of dice to match someone's fewer
You get
dice,
fallout, right?
you suffer fallout. Yeah.
Cool.
So do we have to choose all of our traits to start, but just not all of our relationships?
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute. For now, we're just worried about setting up the background.
Right. Well,
which is
I'm going to
be-
make myself hate myself and still go complicated, even though I want to be useful.
So characters with complicated whatever are still totally useful and legit. They just have like more dice at either extreme of the spectrum. So like they have lots of high dice and lots of low dice. So they'll have a bunch of traits or relationships that are problematic for them. And relationships can be with people, they can be with organizations, they can be with places, they can be with demons, and they can be with sins. So you can have a relationship with gluttony, and it could be a problematic relationship with gluttony. But anytime that gluttony is the object of a conflict or features in a conflict, you get those dice. Right.
All right. I think I'm just gonna go with well-rounded. None of them are jumping out at me, and like I don't really know what I'm doing, so I think it's probably
well-rounded is a totally safe choice. So, if everyone has chosen a background, you're going to want to make a note of the dice that you have for each section. So, for people who are well-rounded, and just like in the space of one of your traits, like the trait phrase, just write down these numbers for now. You're going to have 1d4, 4d6, and 2d8.
1d4, 2d6, what?
1d4, 4d6, and 2d8 for traits.
That's for the well-rounded folks.
Oh, that's for you.
You're going to have 17 dice to distribute in your stats. And then for relationship dice, you're going to have 4d6 and 2d8. Now, Blue, do you want to be...
I have so many relationship dice. I'm ready. I've got it. I have 15d6 stat dice, 66 and 2d8 trait dice, and 44 2d6, 2d8, and 2d10 relationship dice.
Okay, you're doing complicated community?
Yes.
So you are from a broken, in crisis, or destructive family?
Yeah, I was going to go more with, like, they're all dead. And that seems pretty broken to me. Recently deceased community.
Awesome. So here's the thing. If you want... So complicated community is still about your relationship with people. So in that case, like if you want to play it that way where your family is dead, then what you really have a complicated relationship with is with your like extended family or with other people who have like adopted you or taken you in or whatever, like, right? Like it's still about your connection to living people, or you have relationships with their ghosts, which is...
I mean, the thing for me, the thing that really intrigued me, honestly, like when I was reading through, and this is like a very basic thing to build your character around, I guess, but it was when they were talking about coats, and they were saying that if an initiate of the dogs or whatever didn't have family, that the dogs that they were training from would potentially like make them a coat. And like that idea of like, that intrigued me. Like it caught
Totally.
something. So like that is kind of like that little sentence is what I'm kind of working on building around, I guess. So I feel like it's understandable to have relationships. I mean, if your family is deceased, that's obviously going to have like maybe traits there, but I feel like relationships with the dogs, relationships with...
Cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check in that we were still going to have that be a focus. But yeah, if it's like, you know, your kind of adopted family / the people that you then, you know, after your family died, your life became complicated in terms of your relationships with other people. Totally great. Sounds awesome.
And then you said that more like relationships that are more interesting would have, to us, the players, would have the larger dice, but relationships that are more like challenging, as it were, would have smaller dice.
Yeah, so like you can be really interested in your 3d4 relationship with your brother, where you're just like it's a terrible, problematic relationship. They're always getting into trouble and dragging you into it, and that could be really, really interesting. What the dice have to say about a relationship is more how it goes for your character when that relationship comes up or when that trait comes up. So like you could have, best shot in the West as a 2d10 trait or a 1d4 trait, right? And it's just about like when that is relevant. How do things go for your character? Does it complicate your life, or is it like a place where you actually excel? So also it could be, similarly for relationships, it could be your like loving and supportive mother, and you could have a 1d4 relationship with her where it's just like,
I mean,
sure.
in the examples that they've given, like a lot of times they're saying like my grandpa taught me to shoot. Is that a relationship with your grandfather, regardless of where he's living or whether he's living or dead, or is that a trait? My grandpa taught me to shoot. Huh.
Something that is a direct and applicable skill trait. Something like relationships are all with people.
So maybe it would be better to have a complicated history versus a complicated community?
Yeah, I think you could play it either way. It depends on what element you want to focus on. If you want to be someone who's like carrying a bunch of trauma with them, complicated history is a good way to do that.
I feel like it's easier in terms of like my relative, like I haven't played this at all. I feel like traits are a little easier to draw upon than relationships.
Cool, great. And like you still get a bunch of relationship dice no matter what, so you'll still be able to make use of those.
Yeah, so I'm just going to switch that over.
Okay, cool. And you've got all the stat blocks available? Yeah, great. So let's move on to talking about stats. The characters will have 4 stats. There is acuity, and more dice in acuity means a character who's perceptive, alert, educated, clever, savvy, or well-read. More dice in body means a character who's big, healthy, strong, wiry, muscular, tall, graceful, quick, or steady. More dice in heart means a character who's compassionate, attractive, charming, gentle, courageous, enduring, faithful, or likable. And more dice in will is a character who is tenacious, aggressive, confident, unflinching, strong-willed, or unshakable. And you usually roll stats in pairs according to what kind of conflict it is. Will is for all of the violent conflicts. Heart is for the non-fighting conflicts, and then acuity and body variously apply to both violent and non-violent conflicts. Acuity is for gunfighting and talking, and body is for physical tasks that aren't fighting or fighting hand-to-hand. So yeah, if you want to be really good at talking shit, you're going to want to have acuity and heart. If you want to be really good at doing manual labor, you would have body and heart. If you want to be a rough and tumble, like brawling kind of person, then body and will come up. And if you're a really good shot, then you probably have high acuity and will.
Cool. I have my stats assigned.
So what, like I said, if I was going for healer, what would that be? Acuity and
Yeah, that would probably
other things?
be like acuity, heart, and body, maybe.
Okay.
Healing people is going to be like if you were to perform surgery, that would be a non-fighting physical thing. So it would be body and heart.
Okay.
But I feel like acuity would be relevant as well if you want to be an educated person.
I mean, it seems
And
like
you might come up
someone.
with special conflict rules for healing people. It might be like will and
I think I
acuity.
read something about something like it's the person who's injured's body dice and then the healer's acuity dice.
Yeah, there you go. So
think.
there's special rules for healing.
I just read it all yesterday, so
Yeah, no, that rings a bell. That seems reasonable. Yeah, their body resists essentially against your wits. Okay, so you can't have a stat lower than 2. Is the only rule here.
Okay, you can't have a stat lower than 2? Cool. I managed to stick by that rule even though I didn't know it was a rule just.
Yep. Same.
Great.
I'm fairly happy with how mine are. I think it's
All right.
very, very telling to what we're interested in.
So now we'll move on to doing some traits if everyone's got stats assigned.
Cool.
So traits can be a little bit weird at first. So I'm going to read some stuff from the book about them, and then we can talk about some traits. So create some traits for your character and divvy your character's trait dice between them. You can create traits as tidbits of history, like I used to break horses with my dad. You can frame them as simple facts about your character, like I've worked with horses and I think. You can phrase them as a skill, horsemanship. You can phrase them as attitudes. I'm very comfortable working with horses. Each trait needs to have a die associated with it, one or more dice, but they all have to be the same size of die, so only d6s, only d4s, etc.
So you could have a trait that has 2d8, but you could also have two traits that both have 1d8?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
And you cannot have one that's like 1d4 and 1d8.
Yes, also.
Okay, perfect. Good. All right, got it.
Give me a sec, guys. My stuff is freezing. There we
Oh,
go.
no.
My bad.
Uh-oh.
No, it's fine. It was just I guessed that I had a numpad assigned to a scene, and I didn't know. I was using calculators. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Forgive me for not being the most professional streamer in the whole world.
That feel when the GM isn't here.
I forgot that I had my num keys assigned to stuff.
It's okay. So we're
My
assigning
poor
traits.
numbers. Yes, we're assigning traits.
Yeah.
My bad.
You don't have to assign dice to match competence at all. So you might take I'm a masterful rider at 1 with my mount, 1d4, and I can't see well without my eyeglasses, 2d10, for instance.
Okay.
That'd just mean that it's more interesting to you that your character's nearsighted than that your character is a good rider. Or that your character being a good rider complicates their life because of how, whatever reason that might be. They always get into trouble when they are being a masterful rider. If you can't think of any traits to start with, try this trick. Write, I'm a good shot on your character sheet. I'm a good shot is always a safe take. Now ask yourself, where did my character learn to shoot? From whom? What were the circumstances? Tease a second trait out of those circumstances. Something like, I used to hunt with my brother, or I once killed a wolf that was killing my family's calves, or I fought a year in the territorial army. For your character's third trait, choose something unrelated, but balancing out those things. So, I'm a good cook, or I'm well read, or I know the names of the constellations. And then now you're underway, and it should be no problem to come up with a couple more.
All right, cool. Do traits only get one die ever, or can you assign multiple die to a trait?
You could have like a 2d10 trait,
Okay.
for example, and they can grow and change over the course of play. So some of the results of Fallout can be
Okay,
things like
sweet.
your trait die gets better, or it gets another die, stuff like that. Or it can be negative Fallout and make your 1d6 positive trait become a 1d4 negative trait.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
I got it.
Okay. I'm just
I know.
okay. Simplistic phrasing is probably more useful than making something like complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, you
it would be
don't have
easy to be like, I am a healer and put a trait in that, as opposed to like, I learned from blah 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 how to heal the body and the spirit or something.
Both are legit, and it's totally up to you how much color you want to put into your traits.
Yeah.
The one other caveat on traits is that since your character is a dog, I'm a dog makes a very reasonable trait, or if you prefer, I'm God's watchdog, or I serve the order set apart to the preservation of the faith and the faithful. But if you don't give your character a trait about being one of Dog's watchdogs, then you need to have a relationship with the organization of God's watchdogs
Okay.
in the next step. So consider having a trait that's about your identity as one of God's
I
watchdogs.
seem to be having an issue with the traits thing where when I put a trait in, it replicates through all the traits. I don't know if anybody
Yeah.
else is having that problem on the character sheet.
Maybe if you click modify and then do stuff.
Oh, maybe, let me see.
Something. No, it replicated still.
Yeah. It's the character sheet, like, steals all the traits and puts them as the same thing.
One,
So if you add new traits down below,
two,
Okay.
those work fine.
Okay.
So it seems like there's an error.
All right.
Okay, so we'll just add new ones.
Yeah, just don't use the ones that have trait phrase like primed in there already,
Okay.
because it seems like the coding for that's a little messed up. You'll just have 4 blank lines and then.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, other relevant things about the setting. We kind of decide through play how much supernatural stuff there is in the game. It could be that there is none at all, or that there's lots, and that's up to us.
Okay.
And we don't need to make an explicit decision about it right now, unless anyone feels really hardline about it. But, you know, one of your traits could be that you are good at banishing demons or some shit, you know, like...
Was that your example of banishing a demon?
I'm sorry?
Was
The
that
clap?
your example of banishing a demon?
I was banishing a gnat from my room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And that-
totally. Demon gnat.
And the general way that people talk about demons is that, like, because whether or not they're real, people still believe in them, is that sinful behavior draws demons into a community. It's like opening the fortress walls, and letting all that evil in, and that the demons are like responsible for bad behavior or bad things happening. Yeah. So people definitely believe in demons as this like manifestation of evil that is external from people. And so it's not that, you know, people don't turn into demons, they just let demons into their lives by doing sinful behavior.
I'm still working on my traits.
Me too. I've got like 3. But
What are yours? Oh.
what are mine?
Yeah.
I'm a dog. Which is my D4. I have a trait I learned to lasso from my father, the ranch hand. 1d8. And I have a 2d6 trait that I've just named Headsman.
Headsman.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Can I axe you some more about this trait?
Axe
course.
you.
I mean, you can, yeah. My plan for this character is to have like a woodcutter's axe and a coil of rope. Like, that's
Cool.
That's the plan.
That's a great plan. So
So
far, I learned to heal the injuries of body and mind for my 2d6 trait, and then for a 2d4 trait, death and violence terrify me. It's
Great.
gonna be great.
That's a good combo.
I'm excited.
You're hurt. You might die.
Yeah.
I'm scared of this.
I'm very scared of this.
Yeah.
Hey, it's more dice.
And Dave, do you have some traits filled in?
Yeah, I'm not finished yet. But so far I've gone with for 1d4 trait, I've gone with things in the East are very different. Because I think part of my history is maybe having gone to college, which is something that people sometimes do.
Yeah, totally.
So I've got that. I've got a 2d6 trait, which is ain't nothing in this world that can't be solved by a judicious application of lead.
Nice.
They
This is
teach
gonna
you
be
that
a
in
great
school,
combination.
Yeah. I also have I am a dog. Then I tend to think before I listen, which is, I think, about being strong-willed and kind of learning. I don't know. I think that one could be interesting, and I need to pop in another D8 trait. But
Okay,
Yeah,
and we
I've
can put
got some
traits on
D4s
hold
and
for a
D10s. Ugh.
We can put traits on hold for a second, and let's talk about relationships, and then we'll
Sure.
circle back.
Okay.
Sure.
So, relationships. Name a couple people with whom your character has a relationship, and assign some of your relationship dice to them. Don't create very many, and leave most of your relationship dice unassigned. You can assign them to people your character meets after play begins, so save a bunch of them for that.
Cool.
If you like, you can give your character a relationship with the dogs. If you don't give your character a trait, I'm a dog, then you have to give yourself a relationship with them.
I was gonna go with the relationship with the dogs, I think.
And so, yeah, it's like a relationship with the institution of God's watchdogs in that.
Well, I mean, I think like if you have a trait, I am a dog, versus a relationship with the institution of the dog, I think that it plays differently. At least in my head,
Totally.
it does.
Yeah. Because, like, the trait, I'm a dog, is something that you can leverage in any situation to just be like, well, I am, it's like having I'm Superman or something, right? Like, you're this important person, or you're this, figure of authority or whatever. Whereas a relationship with the organization means that die comes in when, like, if people like question the organization, or if you're in a conflict about the organization, stuff like that. So it frames it differently. You're absolutely right.
You said you can have a relationship with like demons or with like sins as well?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, and that could be like a relationship like I indulge in this sin, or a relationship like I am wary of.
I took
this
a
sin.
1d6 relationship for wrath.
Great. Also, whenever your character meets a blood relation, you can write that person as a relationship on your character sheet at 1d6 for free. You never need to spend relationship dice on your character's kin, in other words, unless you want that relationship to be at some other die than d6. And like the communities are small enough and like tight knit enough that like you could have people you're related to in like almost every town you go to. And people are aware of their family tree sufficiently to like know a lot of like who they are related to. Like with traits, the number and size of the dice you assign to your character's relationships don't have to reflect the closeness or significance of the person to your character. You might write, my older brother, whom I worship and with whom I have always been close and caring, 1d4, and this old man I saw once across a field in Bowers Draw, 2d8. Assign the dice based on how interesting you think the relationship is, like you as a player. This game, like all of Vincent's games, includes a lot of like stuff that happens at a remove from the character, where you have to like step outside of them a little bit. So like assigning of values to the traits is kind of a more directorial stance kind of thing. And also, like with traits, D4 relationships will complicate your character's life.
Okay.
Nothing's better than a complicated existence. All right.
That's where all the fun happens.
I only have D6s and D8s for relationship dice.
Wow, that must be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
It must be nice to like get along with people.
I guess.
I don't know. I left mine open basically, except for like my father and Raph.
Cool. And did you take just like a free 1d6? with
No,
your-
I took a D8.
I guess I'll take a D8 for the dogs. So do I just put like dogs, and it's just the entire institute of the dogs, or
Yeah, and like you can characterize it with how you describe them. So it could be the dogs, or God's watchdogs, or the whole formal name of it, or anywhere within that spectrum that you want to place it, which just reflects how your character thinks about.
Yeah, that makes sense. What is the whole name? Where is it?
The order set apart for the preservation of the faith and the faithful.
That's a long name. How did it get to be dogs from that, honestly?
God's watchdogs, the watchdogs. It's a colloquialism.
Oh, here we go. I got it. I can copy pasta.
All right, and then the fifth step in all of this is belongings. Name some things your character owns and give them dice if they warrant them. So, noteworthy here, name a bunch of stuff that your character owns. You don't have to assign dice to all of them. The ones that you feel warrant dice can get dice.
So would these be in relationships?
These are in belongings.
We have a belonging section?
There's like a box on the right-hand side.
Yep, top right.
Oh, yeah, it's with coat. Got it.
in line with stats. And there are going to be some things that all of you are going to have because you are given those things, or they are important, or whatever. So, the stewards at the dog's temple make certain that every dog owns a horse, a coat, a copy of the Book of Life, a small jar of consecrated earth, and a gun. They won't insist your character take the horse or the gun if for some reason he or she chooses not to. Your character might also own other weapons, other books, pens, stationery, some distinctive article of clothing like a hat or a fine dress, keepsakes, or anything else you think's interesting, provided it fits with the game's setting and a person could reasonably travel with it on horseback. And then the way that you assign dice to things is you write the belonging like you would a trait or a relationship, big knife, 1d8, or excellent horse, 2d6. Only bother with possessions you actually care about. You don't have to write down things like provisions or whatever. And then things get dice based on the following rules. If it's a normal thing, it gets 1d6. If it's an excellent thing, it gets 2d6. It's only excellent if people meeting your character would notice and comment on it, like, oh, that's a mighty fine horse. 1d8 if it's big, similarly. Holy smokes, that's a big knife. 2d8 if it's excellent plus big. And then 1d4 if it's crap. If it's big crap, it's still 1d4. And this is true of everything in the world. Horses, dogs, knives, hats, boots, rakes, hoes, forks, spoons, houses, fences, you name it. If it needs dice, it gets 1d6 if it's normal, etc., etc. The only exception to this is guns. All guns get an extra 1d4. Thus, an excellent plus big gun gets 1d4 plus 2d8. A normal gun is 1d4 plus 1d6, and a crap gun is 2d4. You can give your character as many belongings as you like, of whatever quality you like. The only limit is that the rest of the group thinks it's reasonable for him or her to be carrying around on horseback in the wilds in the weather. And your coat is a very important object that you have because it is your symbol of your station as a dog. So detail what colors and patterns are in your character's coat. Most characters' coats start out worth 2d6 for excellence, but see the background section for more info. So basically, your coat is something that your whole family or like whole community takes part in making. Generally, the women in your immediate family will make the coat itself, and then everyone kind of sews a stitch on it, and they have like patterned, quilted fanciness. You know, they look like this or some variation thereupon. If you have like a fucked up family or no family, then, it gets more complicated. Maybe the folks who are teaching you at the dog's like training place make you a coat, or sometimes families like mail coats in to that organization to give out for folks that don't have them or don't have families to make it for them. And your coat says a lot about your character's background and origin. And maybe it's total crap, or maybe it's really nice. But the default is that it's 2d6, that it is like notable and excellent and well made and good.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the part in this that like really intrigued me was some new dogs don't have families; they can't go without. So sometimes their teachers in the temple work together to make one. So like, I like the idea of someone, because wasn't it that they're just recognized as someone capable of becoming a dog, but they have to become a dog themselves, and the teachers are just there to kind of, give you tools or what have you, right?
Yeah, and like they'll teach you to shoot if you don't know how to shoot, and they'll teach you the scripture, and they'll give you all the skills.
But they won't make you into a dog.
Somewhere along the line, someone either felt you had the potential, and so they sent you off, or wanted to get rid of you from their community, so they sent you off, or you had to run away from home, so you ended up there.
I like they're saying like spiritual intuitive component, that somebody in the dog's like teacher group knew that I needed someone to care enough about me to make me a coat. And so they made me an excellent coat instead of just like, here, have this old ratty thing.
Yeah, the King of Life spoke to them.
Yeah. They're like, in order for this person to successfully become a dog, they need some signal that somebody gives a shit about them. Here, make them a pretty coat. All right.
Cool. So, do you have a relationship with that person?
I would assume that I do, but I don't know who they are yet, so I think I'm gonna hold the dice in reserve until I get a better idea of who they are. Or can I just say the person who made my coat and then give it a number of dice?
Yeah, and like, do you want me to just give them a name?
Yes, give them a name. The person who made my coat. So the regular old excellent coat would be 2d6, right?
Yeah, that's the kind of default expected thing.
Not ratty, torn up, has holes in it, disgusting crap
Yeah.
coat.
Yeah, I mean, if it's crap, there's the rule for that. It's a D4 if it's crap. If you go a crap coat, it's going to be 2D4 probably.
What's your coat gonna be like, Dave?
Mine is a pretty standard coat. I think one of the things about this character is a duality. So I've got, so far as an idea for my coat, I've got it in two main colors, and it's built very much in mind for combat. So it's like it's built as a normal coat, but most of the details in the two holsters that are kind of like strapped in under the arms. Because I think my character carries two pistols, and this is all I said in the Slack when I was thinking about it. I'm pretty dead set on one thing. I think is that my character has two pistols, which are big and excellent. And they're called Dawn and Dusk, and I want him to like shoot people. Like that's what I'm gonna do. So
Great.
I'm still working around.
So
that.
would both of those pistols have dice, or do the two pistols have a set of dice?
So that's up to Dave,
Okay.
how he wants to run it. If you want to just have like the pair of them be a thing and they're big, excellent guns,
Yeah,
as one like unit, then that's legit.
yeah. I don't see ever using them separately, so I've got it down as a
Yeah.
And
What
yeah,
if you
I'm
lost
sure to
one
get-
of them and then they became less big? Because there's only
Wow.
one.
that'd be a rough time, and we'd have to do some traits. and stuff.
downgraded to a 2d6 gun.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think if you had two 2d8 guns, that would get a little ridiculous. But one pair that is as a 2d8 is reasonable.
mm-hmm.
So Blue Jay,
hmm
Brother Pleasant is the name of your coat maker.
Made my coat. Such a sweetheart. Cool.
Brother Pleasant lives up to his name.
He's pleasant, I guess. I mean, maybe not, though. Maybe it was just like, hey, the King of Life said to do this, so I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
Are the next thing we're doing names? Is names the next thing?
Why do you have a name?
I do.
Yeah, you should name your character.
I do. I know what name I'm gonna have. My character's name is gonna be Sister Charity.
I'm sure you're very generous in your distribution of the axe.
Yes.
Does anyone else have a name for their character?
No, it's really hard. Really hard.
All right, well, let me read from my list of example names
Yeah, do it.
to get y'all in the mood, in the naming mood. So, some appropriate female names you might not think of include Adelaide, Almina, Althea, Bedelia, Clementine, Constance, Damaris, Edwina, Fidelia, Hester, Kezia, Lavina, Marilla, Sabrina, but spelt funny, Sister Submit, Sister Prudence, Sister Permelia, Patience, Obedience, Mindwell, Wait Still. Some appropriate male names you might not think of. Abijah, Archibald, Bartholomew, Cornelius, Cuthbert, Derek, Ebenezer, Eliezer, Hezekiah, Hiram, Jebediah, Jackson, Josiah, Micajah, Nathaniel, Newton, Obadiah, Phineas, Theophilus, Virgil, and Wiley. So it's that kind of name.
I'm gonna be Clementine. Sister Clem.
Clem, such a good abbreviation.
Yeah, I think I've chosen a name as well. I'm gonna be Brother Ramaya.
Ramaya, cool. So we have Charity, Clementine, and Ramaya.
Mm.
Sister, brother.
Yep,
Great.
for me.
And so the final step in character creation is accomplishment, ? Up until now, you've been building your character in public at the table, but while you've, I hope, been open to suggestions, nobody else has made any actual say of what goes onto your character sheet. In the final step, that changes. So I will call on each of you in turn to say something that you hope your character accomplished during initiation. Some examples. I hope that my character won distinction in the eyes of the teacher of scripture, or I hope that my character overcame his fear of blood, or I hope my character exorcised a demon, or learned to curb her temper, or solved a serious problem without resorting to violence, or whatever grabs you. That accomplishment is what's at stake. You don't choose something that'll break your character if it goes the wrong way, like I hope I survived initiation, or that my character didn't get sent home in disgrace. Aren't good. And then we take sides. This calls for a little bit of examination and judgment. If your accomplishment is for your character is straightforward, that's cool and easy. And you take your character's part, and I take the part of your character's opposition. So, like, I hope I won distinction in the eyes of the teacher of scripture, for instance. You take your character's side, and I take the side of your rivals. Or if you wanted to exorcise a demon, I'm the demon, you're yourself. That's easy. On the other hand, if your accomplishment for your character is growth, learning, or change, then we play a little trick. You take the part of your character as he or she is, and I take the part of whatever forces or pressures are on your character to change. I hope that my character overcame his fear of blood, for instance. You take the side of your character in fear, and I take the side of your character's teachers who see his weakness and want to help him overcome it. Yeah. And there are some examples. Anyways, coming up. We set a stage. Between us, we figure out a pivotal moment with regard to your accomplishment for your character. We say who's there and what's going on. Like, I hope that my character exorcised a demon. We create a possessed person and we put her in a locked room. We have your character led there and put inside with practiced exorcists outside the door in case things go badly. In which case we've launched a conflict. So we play it out between us using the game's conflict and resolution rules. I'll explain them in full blood and bullets detail in the upcoming chapter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. You roll dice based on your character's stats, traits, etc., as we will in ongoing play. So we do that. Win or lose, you get a new D6 trait. If you win the conflict, the trait should match your side. So if you lose, it will match my side. I hope my character won distinction. If you win, you write, I won distinction. If I win, you write, I didn't win distinction, as the most obvious example. Either way, it's a 1d6 trait. And then for the ones where it's about like change within your character or growth, so the whole like temper example, you would say, I hope my character learns to curb her temper. If you win, then I haven't learned to curb my temper because you as you are has won, and therefore you haven't changed. But if I win, then you would write, I've learned to curb my temper, 1d6. And you're allowed some editorial spin on your new trait. If it's I handily exorcise a demon, or I've exorcised one demon, I never want to face another, or a demon handed me my butt. These are all legit ways to run it as well.
I need help with traits. I still have 2 traits that I need. Or to give more dice to the traits I currently have, I guess.
Yeah, you could double down on existing ones. You can hold a couple dice in reserve. There's no reason
For
why you have
traits?
to have all your traits made right away. Yeah.
Oh.
It's just good to have at least some.
Okay. I thought we had to have all of our traits done. Okay.
Ideally, yes, but it's okay to not.
All right. I'll probably find ideas as we play.
So does anyone have an idea for how they want to, or what they want to accomplish during their initiation into the dawn?
Yeah, I do actually.
Great.
I hope that my character learned patience.
So you are not patient. So, I mean, literally, your name isn't Patience, but that's not what this is about. So, you are going to take on the role of yourself as you are, impatient, rash, whatever. And then I must take on the role of, yeah. I take on the role of everyone trying to mold you and improve you, people trying to teach you patience. And so, where do we want to, what's the pivotal moment for this?
I feel like maybe there might have been some kind of trial where it's like they don't tell you what you're going to be doing, but you just have to stand and wait for like a long time. You know what I mean? Like one of those things where like someone will come and talk to you like an hour after you've been told to stand there and be like, just wait a little longer, and then like leave and just see how long you'll stay there without like any kind of guidance, you know, like one
That's
of those
great. That's
things.
awesome.
Where it's like the frustration will only build within you and you can't lash out at anyone except to be impatient, you know, like to go looking for whoever is going to tell you what to do immediately. Sort of thing. Like you fail by acting.
Yeah, and I think they don't like lock you in the room, but they just put you in a room and close the door.
Yeah.
So, like you can leave, but that's you fucking it up.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I think this is a.
Do we want to take a break while you set up Elf's stuff? It's been about an hour. Or do we want to do this and then take a break?
Let's take a break first, and then when we come
Okay.
back, we'll do it. Because I got to just do a quick figuring out of how to make this all happen.
All right, sounds good. So we've, for the most part, got our characters started. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to figure out if Sister Charity can be patient. So, patience group. We'll see you in a little bit.